Hey there. I thought that with all that's going on with Konami and Kojima, it might be time to step back and take a retrospective view on the Metal Gear series. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to spend all my time spewing vile at Konami. Not that they don't deserve it. Yeah, keeping Kojima from going to the Video Game Awards? Not cool. My personal history with the Metal Gear franchise actually begins with Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, released for the Nintendo GameCube in 2003. I didn't own a PlayStation when I was a kid. Back then I was only allowed one system, and I chose the Nintendo 64. So I hadn't really experienced Metal Gear Solid for its wonder back in the day. But after playing Twin Snakes, it made me want to play MGS2 and MGS3 when it came out. Then at one point I went back and played the original PlayStation version of Metal Gear Solid. It wouldn't be until Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence came out in 2006 that I would be able to play the original Metal Gear games. In a time when the Nintendo Entertainment System ruled the world, there was a home computer system called the MSX2 in Japan. A young video game designer named Hideo Kojima has always admitted that he's a film buff at heart, and one can see the influence from films in the Metal Gear franchise, the incredibly long cinematic cutscenes of the 3D games notwithstanding. Solid Snake, the main character, is based on Snake Plissken from Escape from New York. So let's take a look and see how Solid Snake's tale begins. Metal Gear is relatively simple in story, especially when compared to later entries in the franchise. It was par for the course back then. You play as Solid Snake, a rookie agent of Foxhound, which is led by the mysterious Big Boss who assigns you to infiltrate Outer Heaven, find and rescue the captured agent Gray Fox, and destroy the ultimate weapon, Metal Gear. Very early on, Snake rescues Gray Fox, who tells him that he must find and rescue Dr. Draco Petrovich Madnar in order to find out how to destroy Metal Gear. After going through various Metal Gear bosses, Snake rescues the Doctor, only for him to tell him that he won't help him until he rescues his daughter Ellen. So, Snake goes all the way around Outer Heaven, does just that, goes back to Dr. Madnar, who tells him a very specific way to defeat Metal Gear. I have to wonder how he planned to have weakness be about bombing one's feet in specific order. So Snake goes to the bunker where Metal Gear is being held and destroys it. Along the way, it becomes pretty obvious that Big Boss is giving you bad advice. After destroying Metal Gear, the countdown in the base begins exploding. Don't worry, Snake. Samus can definitely relate to you. Anyway, following that, Snake is confronted by Big Boss, who is not happy with Snake for foiling his plans. You fight Big Boss, you beat him, he explodes, for some reason. Then you make it out just before the base explodes. Yeah, that's pretty much the plot of Metal Gear. Although, this takes on a bit of a different context when one considers the retcon of Metal Gear Solid 5, which I will get into whenever I decide to review Metal Gear Solid 5, don't you worry. Metal Gear was unique among games at the time. The concept was not to defeat everything in your way like, say, Super Mario Bros. This game relies on an overhead view much like The Legend of Zelda, where you would navigate your way across Outer Heaven as you try to rescue hostages and defeat bosses. Snake doesn't talk very much in this game outside of, "This is Solid Snake, come in." But perhaps that's arguably an improvement over constantly repeating what was said to him in the form of a question. You must use your wits and skill to survive. You can walk up to enemies and punch them into oblivion, or use your gun and your enemies will never be the wiser for it. Your typical enemies are guards, but sometimes you have to deal with dogs. Ugh, I hate these things. Many trademark Metal Gear weapons make their debut here. Mine detector, rations to heal, missile launchers. Some you use constantly, or else other items like the parachute are pretty much just a one-time deal. You also have a radio that lets you contact people like Big Boss, Diane, Snyder, and Jennifer to give you intel, but I find them to be rather useless more often than not. Often they don't answer, and Big Boss's intel usually amounts to, "I forgot to tell you." "Oh, I'm sure you forgot, you jackass." The bosses also don't require much strategy outside of hide, shoot, hide, shoot. Sometimes it's best to just go right up to them and punch away. So overall, Metal Gear 1 is a very solid experience. I wouldn't recommend it as your first Metal Gear game, but after you acquainted yourself with the rest of the Metal Gear series, it might be fun to take a look back at this epic franchise's humble beginnings. Thanks for watching, and join me next time. I'll be reviewing Metal Gear 2 Solid Snake.